With your mains approaching closer, you do need to have a proper insight into one of the papers that usually students skip, and that is essay. Now, these days, most of the essays, as we have seen, have a philosophical construct. That means the concepts are very philosophical in nature, very conceptual in nature, rather I would say abstract in nature, and sometimes the students from science faculty find it very difficult to handle such essays, and therefore all the essays from the past papers have been covered on our portal already. Now when we talk about the structure of the essay, what is really important? The real important thing is the bonding link. You are always instructed that write as a body, introduction, body and conclusion, but it's not just about mentioning the introduction, body and the conclusion. What is really important is how you actually maintain a flow throughout the essay. It should not be like that you start with something and you make your introduction extremely long, boring, monotonous, and then suddenly out of the moon you jump onto another different construct which makes no sense with the previous thing that you have been discussing. So what really important is the flow. I take another good example. Let's say you want to learn driving. Now once in a blue moon you say to your father or to your mother that I want to learn driving, take the keys, go to the vehicle and just start it. What would happen? You put your feet onto the accelerator and the vehicle goes boom. Now this is something which would be a pathetic experience for you, right? Why? Because you would be injured, the vehicle would be injured, and so on and so forth. Now to restrict that, what is required? A systematic effort on your behalf. So you learn what are the key components first. You know how to start the vehicle. You know if you are driving onto the road, where are the brakes, how to apply the brakes, and finally on the destination, how do you stop your vehicle and put it on a stand or just lock the vehicle. Now this is what is the structure of the essay. The same thing applies when you are writing your essay. So when you are writing your essay, a systematic, smooth flow and an organization is important. Now this organization can be of various ways. Some of those I have tried to introduce here. For example, you can introduce all the causes at once and all the effect at once, or you can explain one cause and its implication, the second cause and its implication. I take a very simple example of, let's say, air pollution. So if you are writing about air pollution, you can say in the first paragraph what is pollution, why, what are the types of pollution, what is air pollution. In the second paragraph, you can say by all ways through which the air pollution is caused. So by roads, by transport, by household activities, by industries. And in the third paragraph, you can explain the implications, you can explain the ways to prevent it. However, the other way around could be you can explain each of the cause. Because of the industrialization, these are the implications and this is how we can restrict it. And that's a different way you can explain. Then you can explain the similarities between two concepts, the differences, and finally conclude. You can start with the differences, how two things vary. What is let's say you are asked to write a note on various types of pollution. You can talk about the similarities between various pollutions and then the differences. You can first mark down the differences and then talk about the similarities that exist. Sometimes you can explain all the problems together, solutions together, a problem and a solution and a problem and a solution. So there are various ways, and each way I cannot say is correct or incorrect. Each way has its own merits and demerits. The ultimate objective is how smooth is the flow of your answer, how smooth is the flow of your essay, and that is what would count. So there has to be an introductory sentence. Now this introductory sentence, of course, should not be monotonous. It should be either a question or an exclamation or something that would gear up the interest of the reader. Unless and until the interest of the reader is developed, the remaining points would go in vain. So once the interest is developed, the examiner would go on to read the concept, understand the points. This should be substantiated with examples and then analysis, and finally a point where you would end up with your answer. Now, when you are working onto the main part of your answer, what is important? The transition from one theme to another theme, the switch, that on off switch is really important. So you must be able to connect the dots. And if you are not able to connect the dots, then your explanation, I would say, is very shallow and not deep. So next point is the depth. Now, whatever topic you are talking about, as I said, there are numerous abstract topics that are discussed. Even in those abstract topics, if you are able to bring in some philosophical construct, for example, there is a saying by Dalai Lama, and that is to be explained. Now, it is a life saying. Now, when there is such a life saying which is to be explained, if you are able to identify, yes, this is one of the quotes of Dalai Lama, and you are able to actually relate it to the vision of Dalai Lama, and that would really create a weight into your answer. So ultimately, the depth, the knowledge is the key. So whenever you are explaining your ideas, you should be able to connect it. Move forward only when you feel you have given substantial knowledge input into your answer. Now, how you structure your answer, how you simplify it is again a key. I can bring in multiple things, but that might look too complicated to understand. Rather than I can have a simple switch explaining the concepts in a very smooth way. So which one of that would you prefer? The same thing would go with an essay writing. Rather, it could be a complex set of information which is being poured in, or it could be a simplified information that you are writing. So that would make a significant difference into your answer writing. So in the next sessions of the following sequence of essay writing, we would talk more about how to simplify your essay, what is the ITQEE concept that we would discuss, and the 3 C's concept. So stay tuned, enjoy.